Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a country where the lines between correctional facilities, major financial institutions, and, well, the highest levels of political power appear not just blurred, but incredibly intertwined.
Yeah, really tangled up.
Exactly.
Hmm.
What if we told you that the thoughtful rehabilitation of prisoners, the dramatic rebranding of a national bank into this global powerhouse,
Yeah.
and the careers of prominent politicians, what if they all seem to connect?
In ways you might not expect at all.
Right. Ways that when you sort of pull back the curtain reveal a surprisingly dense web of influence and, well, personal relationships. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a fascinating journey into a stack of documents that paint a really vivid, intricate picture of Iceland. We're focusing on institutional changes, these deep-seated political allegiances, and the profound impact these had on individuals and, the nation's financial landscape, especially in the years leading up to the 2008 financial crisis.
That context is key.
Definitely. Our deep dive today is anchored by sources that shed light on the Solheimar Rehabilitation Project, the dramatic transformation of Íslandsbanki into Glitnir.
A huge shift.
It's huge. And the intricate political networks that, well, at least from the perspective of our source material, seem to underpin these very developments.
What's truly fascinating here is how these seemingly disparate areas, you've got the penal system, the cutting edge of the financial sector, and the highest levels of political parties, they aren't just coexisting.
Right.
They're presented as deeply connected threads in the source material we've gathered. We'll be drawing from Solheimar and the prison administration, the Little Lava, Fangelsee, Little Afroni, and Son prison administration.
Which roughly translates to Little Harm Prison and Son Prison Administration, right?
Yeah.
Talking about key correctional facilities.
Exactly. Then there's the reason for the Knowledge Guard. Íslandsbanki HF becomes Glitnir HF, and Erdmundur Jonasson, his daughter, bought apartment Seljaveg 3.
Quite specific titles there.
Very. Our mission today is really to meticulously extract the crucial insights from these documents, help you navigate this complex web, and understand the so what behind these connections, not just observe them.
And we'll hear from someone involved, right?
Yes. We'll also be hearing from the perspective of an individual we'll refer to as the author, who provided some of these insights and whose personal experiences are woven throughout this whole narrative.
And look, this isn't just a historical look back. It's a compelling case study, really, in how power operates, especially in a small, interconnected society like Iceland.
Very much so.
How institutions evolve and how intensely personal narratives often intersect with these broader societal structures and, economic shifts. For you, the curious learner, we aim to provide those aha moments.
Hopefully.
Offer clarity without getting too overwhelming, and highlight the surprising facts and, well, the nuanced details that will hopefully stick long after our conversation concludes. So let's get into it.
Solheimar and the evolution of the prison system.
Okay, so if we start by connecting this to the bigger picture of penal reform, our sources introduce us to Solheimar in Grimsnesi,
Right.
an institution that played a rather unique, almost progressive role within the Icelandic penal system at the time. Specifically, the Act on the Enforcement of Sentences No. 49/2005. That marked a significant legislative step.
How so?
Well, it allowed the Prison and Probation Administration to permit prisoners to complete parts of their sentences outside the confines of traditional prison walls.
Okay, so a move towards reintegration.
Precisely. It was a notable shift from a purely punitive model, exploring alternative pathways back into society, and it signaled, a commitment to rehabilitation. It really laid the groundwork for a more nuanced approach.
Recognizing that maybe prison isn't the only answer for everyone.
Exactly. Recognizing that for certain individuals, structured, community-based programs could be far more effective in achieving long-term social adaptation.
That's a fascinating pivot. And here's where it gets particularly interesting when we look at the practical side, the implementation. Because this wasn't, as some might assume, simply a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Not at all.
The Act laid out very clear and, frankly, quite stringent conditions. It made sure this opportunity wasn't seen as some kind of lenient shortcut.
Right. What were those conditions?
Well, prisoners accepted into the program had to be actively engaged in work or studies. And not just any work or study, it had to be specifically approved by the Prison and Probation Administration.
Ensuring it was constructive.
Totally. Geared towards tangible skills or education. They also had to live in a supervised setting, like Solheimar or maybe an approved home, providing control but less restriction than
A
prison.
kind of halfway house model, almost?
Sort of, and critically, their chosen work or study had to be a defined part of their overall reintegration plan, so a
Hmm.
clear, forward-looking rehabilitative purpose.
Okay.
And get this, these participating prisoners even had to pay fees to these institutions.
Wow, really, that underscores a model where personal responsibility, some contribution, was integral to the whole philosophy.
Yeah, and the sources detail the specific pilot project called Save and Social Adaptation. This initiative was formally set up through an initial agreement between the prison administration and Solheimar says.
SAYS, that's like a self-owned or nonprofit type thing in Iceland, right? Shelf
Mhm.
senior stuff and then.
Exactly. That first agreement was September 1st, 2004. But this early trial period evidently led to a review because a new, refined agreement was signed later on November 2, 2005.
So they were learning and adjusting as they went.
Seems like it. An iterative process. And this project had very specific criteria designed to ensure effectiveness and manageability. It reflects a cautious, maybe, but hopeful approach to reform.
Like what kind of criteria?
For instance, eligibility. Prisoners typically needed to have received at least a 3-year prison sentence.
Okay, so not for minor offenses. Generally not, though exceptions could be made for special reasons. So there was some flexibility based on individual circumstances and, their rehabilitation needs.
And the specifics really reveal a carefully scaled approach. The project intentionally limited capacity, stipulating no more than 3 prisoners would be at Solheimar at any one time.
Only 3. That suggests a strong focus on individualized attention, effective supervision, not a mass alternative.
Right. And the length of stay was also key. Prisoners generally had to remain for no less than 6 months.
Okay, enough time for the process to actually take root.
Exactly. Aiming for genuine change, not just superficial participation. And crucially, Solheimar's own consent was mandatory for placing any prisoner there.
So the institution had a say in who they took on.
Absolutely, giving them agency to select participants they believe would genuinely benefit from their specific therapeutic and work-oriented environment. Plus, both the prison administration and Solheimar set strict conditions.
A dual layer of oversight, then.
Yeah, highlighting a shared commitment to maintaining order and, achieving these ambitious rehabilitative goals.
Now, let's zoom in on a significant figure here, someone who kind of bridges these worlds of politics and the penal system. Margrét Frímannsdóttir.
Okay.
Our sources tell us she became the director of Glitnir, often called the Little Lava Prison, one of Iceland's biggest and most important correctional facilities, in January 2008.
Glitnir. That's also in southern Iceland, like Solheimar, right? And run by the prison administration.
Correct. This detail is important because it places a politically experienced individual, someone with a long public career, at the helm of a key correctional institution. And she's operating the same geographical and administrative sphere as that more experimental Solheimar project.
Interesting. So a politician moving into prison administration.
Her appointment marks a notable, maybe even unusual, crossover from the political arena into this critical public service leadership role.
So this raises an important question. What exactly was her background? What did it mean for her to take on a role like that?
Well, Margaret's career is deeply rooted in politics. A long and active history of public service, strong party affiliation. She served as a member of parliament for a significant time, 1987 to 2000, representing the People's Alliance. Party code XG.
The People's Alliance, known for its socialist leanings.
That's right. Then she transitioned, became vice chairman for the Social Democratic Alliance Party, XS, until 2003, and then continued as an MP until 2007.
Wow, so she was in parliament for 2 full decades.
Continuously. Huge legislative experience. And she didn't just sit there. She also chaired parliamentary parties for both of these political groups for a while.
A real leader within the parties, then.
Definitely indicating leadership and significant influence. Her long, varied political career gives crucial context for her later role in prison administration. It really highlights how deep political ties could potentially influence key appointments in state institutions. And the connections within the prison administration, they don't actually stop with Margrét Frímannsdóttir. Our sources reveal a pattern, really, of personnel moving between Solheimar and the wider prison administration.
Oh, really? Like who?
For instance, Guðmundur Ármann Pedersen, he's a former director of Solheimar, says, he publicly stated on his blog that he was also an employee of the prison administration at Littleharound for a period.
Okay, so moving between the experimental site and the main prison.
And it's not just his claim. Oscar Ingi Horgrimsson, another Solheimmar's employee, corroborated this in an interview published in an Icelandic newspaper, so it lends weight to these institutional crossovers.
Suggests a real fluidity of roles then.
Yeah, and a shared pool of experience among those managing penal facilities in Iceland. It effectively blurs the lines between these specialized rehabilitation efforts and the broader correctional system.
Tightly knit professional community, maybe?
It implies that, yes, where individuals might transition between different but related roles within the state apparatus.
That continuity of personnel is quite striking, and the sources also note this curious detail, perhaps even a bit unsettling, something that highlights the lasting impact of interacting with these systems.
What's that?
Upon the author's return to Iceland, the very first person to try and befriend them, someone they hadn't known before, was identified as a detective.
A detective. Just randomly.
Well, that's how it's presented. This observation hints at the kind of scrutiny or, let's say, ongoing surveillance individuals might face, or at least perceive, even after engaging with the penal system or rehabilitation programs.
That's potentially chilling.
This early, unsolicited interaction with law enforcement from someone previously unknown, it could be interpreted as a subtle form of monitoring, couldn't it?
It could. It definitely emphasizes the lasting imprint of involvement with the justice system. Suggests that once you've been on its radar, you might just stay there.
Adds a layer of introspection, maybe even a sense of persistent scrutiny to the author's narrative.
Íslandsbanki becomes Glitnir, a financial transformation.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Moving from the intertwining of politics and the penal system to the equally dense world of Icelandic finance. Specifically, a pivotal moment, March 13th, 2006.
A big date in Icelandic banking history.
Huge. That's when Íslandsbanki HF made this massive market-shaking announcement. It would operate under the entirely new Glitnir brand from then on.
And this wasn't just, slapping a new logo on the door.
No way. It wasn't merely a superficial name change or some cosmetic update. It came with a striking new logo, a completely new visual identity, and a comprehensive overhaul of the bank's public image and its operational strategy.
A fundamental shift.
Totally. This rebranding signified a deliberate, profound transformation within the institution itself. It signaled ambitious new directions for a bank that had traditionally been seen as a pillar of Icelandic finance.
And what's truly fascinating here is the sheer scale, the audacity, really, of this transformation as presented in our sources. This was a truly global, coordinated effort.
How global?
The bank's subsidiaries and offices across 5 different countries, Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Great Britain, and Luxembourg, all simultaneously adopted the Glitnir name.
Wow, all at once. That's a massive undertaking.
Huge. It showcased the bank's burgeoning international ambitions and its operational capability. And the reveal itself, it was a major corporate event, attended by about 1,000 employees in Háskólavio.
Háskólavio, that's a big venue in Reykjavik.
A significant cultural venue, yes. This grand presentation demonstrated not only the internal buy-in, the celebratory atmosphere around this pivotal moment, but it also served as a clear, outward statement of intent.
About their future on the world stage.
Exactly.
So what did this all mean? For the bank's strategic direction, its vision for the future, Bjarni Armansson, the CEO leading this transformation, he was seen as quite visionary, right?
Yes, he provided crucial insight. He explained that this change was absolutely necessary because the bank had profoundly evolved beyond its original identity.
Meaning?
He highlighted that it had transitioned from what he described as a purely Icelandic entity into a bona fide international financial company.
Okay, but keeping roots.
Well, they defined Iceland and Norway as their home markets. That indicates a strong regional focus for their core operations, their customer base. But their aspirations were much broader.
Right.
Rapid expansion was already underway. They had concrete plans for opening new offices in significant global hubs like Halifax, Canada, and Shanghai, China, later that very same year, 2006.
Halifax and Shanghai, that's quite a leap.
It clearly articulated a strategic move towards becoming a truly significant global player in finance, shedding its national skin for international ambitions. And the choice of the name Glitnir, it was far from arbitrary. It was a highly deliberate, carefully considered branding decision loaded with cultural and historical significance.
At Norse mythology, right.
Deeply rooted, yes. The ancient text, Gylfaginning, describes Glitnir as the home of the president. Now, that means Forseti, the god of justice and reconciliation, son of Baldur and Nanna, not a modern president.
Oh, okay. Good clarification.
This mythological hall is said to be a place where everyone left happy. It embodies fairness, contentment.
So positive connotations.
Very. Armisen himself highlighted several reasons for picking it, a blend of heritage and global appeal. He emphasized its positive meaning for Icelanders, connecting to their rich cultural heritage.
Makes sense.
He also pointed to its historical appeal, the fact that it was both Icelandic and Nordic at the same time, fostering a regional identity for its primary markets.
And practical reasons, too.
Yes, he noted its ease of pronunciation in major international languages and its use of only international characters, made it globally accessible, memorable. A really powerful, multi-layered branding strategy.
Designed to resonate everywhere but still feel distinct.
Precisely.
Now, the history of this institution, it's quite a saga itself, isn't it? Shows this continuous evolution through mergers and acquisitions long before the Glitnir rebrand.
Absolutely. Its lineage traces back to the very founding of Íslandsbanki in 1904. Over a century of banking presence.
Then Íslandsbanki took over in 1930.
Yes, a state-owned bank. But a pivotal moment came in 1990. A major merger creating a new Íslandsbanki.
Consolidating 3 other banks?
That's right. Íslandsbanki Iceland's industrial bank, Banki Iceland's commercial bank, and Íslandsbanki, the People's Bank, all merged into one.
Quite a shakeup.
And then, just a decade later, another significant integration. This reinvigorated Íslandsbanki merged with Fjárfestingarbanki at Vinnulisans, or FBA.
The investment bank for industry. That was relatively new itself, right?
Founded only 2 years prior. So this complex lineage illustrates a bank constantly adapting, consolidating, growing through these strategic financial maneuvers. It was really positioning itself for the explosive growth that followed, which raises that important question about the sheer pace, the ambition of change leading up to the Glitnir rebranding. Our sources clearly show a period of incredibly rapid, almost aggressive expansion for Íslandsbanki.
Like what?
Late 2004, they make a significant move into the Norwegian market, first acquiring Creditbanken, and then very soon after, BN Bank.
BN Bank. Wasn't that quite large in Norway?
Fourth largest bank there at the time. And this wasn't just about regional dominance. They were simultaneously establishing a formidable international footprint.
Opening offices elsewhere.
Strategically opening new offices in key European financial hubs. Luxembourg, London, Copenhagen. Unequivocally signaling their global ambitions.
And acquisitions, too.
Continued strategic acquisitions, yes. Took over a securities company, Norse, and secured a majority stake in Union, a prominent real estate brokerage, also in Norway.
Wow. That's a lot of activity in a short time.
A real flurry. Underscores a clear, deliberate strategy of explosive growth, market penetration across multiple sectors and geographies, all meticulously paving the way for the grand Glitnir rebranding and its global aspirations.
And the financial performance during this period, it must have reflected this expansion.
By all accounts, it was nothing short of staggering, truly reflecting the success of this aggressive strategy. The results for 2005 were phenomenal. Record profits.
How much?
After-tax profits exceeded 19 billion Icelandic kroner, ISK.
19 billion. That's huge for the Icelandic context back then.
Absolutely. This wasn't just a good year. It dramatically demonstrated the bank's immense financial power, its successful international expansion, its burgeoning market dominance.
A powerhouse on the rise.
Definitely. This period of robust profitability paints a vivid picture. And it's crucial, as you said, to remember this meteoric rise was just a few short years before the global financial crisis would dramatically alter everything.
Makes these early indicators of power and ambition even more poignant looking back.
Exactly.
The intersecting worlds of politics, banking, and personal connections.
Okay, so now if we connect this back to the bigger picture, our sources highlight significant and often quite surprising political ties within Glitnir's leadership. And this really gets to the core of our deep dive today.
Right, the connections.
Bjarni Ormondsen, the dynamic CEO who spearheaded the bank's transformation. He had strong familial connections extending deep into the political sphere.
How so?
His mother-in-law, Guðrún Helgadóttir, she wasn't just a prominent writer, known for children's literature. She was also a significant politician for the People's Alliance.
XG.
The Alþýðubandalagið again, the Socialist Party, the very same. And it's important to note, Ólafur Ragnar Grimsson, who later became president of Iceland for a long time. He had been a former chairman of this exact party.
So the CEO of this booming international bank is married into a family with deep roots in a socialist political tradition.
Exactly. This direct family link immediately draws a line, creating a fascinating, unexpected juxtaposition of ideologies.
And here's where it gets really fascinating, revealing this profound perception from the sources. They explicitly state, this is a quote, that this connection meant the capital was married to the old communist socialism who were pro-Kremlin and East Germany, Eastern Europe.
Wow, that's a very strong statement.
It's a truly striking observation about the perceived blend of burgeoning financial power and historical political ideology. It suggests a deeply unexpected, perhaps even uncomfortable alliance.
Where booming capitalist interests of a major bank found themselves intertwined with individuals and families historically associated with a socialist, even in the source's perception, communist-leaning political party.
Right. It challenges these conventional ideas of ideological separation between finance and politics. It hints at a pragmatic, maybe, power consolidation.
Where economic interests and historical political allegiances found common ground or mutual benefit.
It makes you wonder how such an alliance might actually manifest in real-world decisions or influence, doesn't it?
And expanding on these political networks, Ögmundur Jónasson, Party Code XG, whom we'll discuss more later, as he's really a central figure.
Okay.
He was explicitly noted in the sources as a teammate of Guðrún Helgadóttir within the People's Alliance.
Reinforcing this idea of a tight political group.
Absolutely. United by shared party affiliation, potentially shared objectives. The sources also mention other key political figures associated with this group, like Margaret Frimannsdóttir.
Who became the prison director.
Exactly. And Steingrimur J. Sigfússon, another prominent figure. This illustrates a cohesive network of individuals, suggests the degree of coordination, common purpose, that extended across their various public and personal roles.
Not just individual connections, but a real web.
A discernible web of collective political allegiance and shared history, yes.
And the influence of political ties. It seemed to extend even to key career appointments, right? Bjarni Ármandsson's path itself shows this, even before Glitnir.
That's what the sources indicate. He was recruited to FBA, the Investment Bank for Industry, as its CEO back in 1997.
And this wasn't purely a corporate decision.
Apparently not entirely. It was notably facilitated by Finnur Ingólfsson. He was the Minister of Industry and Commerce at the time for the Progressive Party, XB. That's a centrist agrarian party.
Okay, different party affiliation there.
Yes. Finnur was supported by Þorsteinn Olafsson, described as a business expert and also a progressive, and adding another layer. Bjarni Ármandsson himself had ties to the Progressive Party through his involvement in student politics earlier on.
So it suggests key appointments in finance were, at least in this instance, influenced by political patronage, pre-existing party affiliations.
That's the implication.
Mm-hmm.
Creating a direct, powerful link between political power and corporate leadership within Iceland. Now, against this complex backdrop, all these interconnected institutions and political ties, our sources introduce a really fascinating critical concept, something envisioned by the author, the Knowledge Guard.
The Knowledge Guard, what was the idea behind that?
The reasoning was to create a structured, formal system specifically for protecting and managing ingenuity.
Ingenuity meaning intellectual property, innovations, inventions.
Exactly. Essentially, it was envisioned as a specialized development organization and holding company designed specifically to protect and manage intellectual property rights within the Icelandic legal framework and courts.
So arising from a perceived need, given all these complex, maybe informal connections we're seeing.
Precisely. A perceived need to navigate the intricacies of innovation and ownership in a system that could be quite opaque, quite informal in its interconnections and power dynamics.
And the goal of this Knowledge Guard, it sounds remarkably clear and practical.
It was. It was intended to help individuals cope with the often overwhelming complexities of protecting their intellectual assets.
Ow.
Its primary purpose was to facilitate the meticulous registration of licenses at the Intellectual Property Office or similar institutions, ensuring everything was thoroughly documented by the book, following certain rules to establish clear ownership and rights.
And the name itself.
The sources explicitly state the name Knowledge Guard was intended to be self-explanatory, immediately conveying its function to safeguard knowledge, innovation, intellectual property.
So it represents this explicit attempt to create a formal, transparent, defensible mechanism for managing IP.
Right. Standing in stark contrast to the more informal networks and, well, less clear-cut structures that seem to govern other aspects of institutional interaction in Iceland at that time. And this raises that important question about accountability, transparency, which the Knowledge Guard concept aimed to address with impressive rigor.
How so? What was the structure?
The source details a very specific, robust structure envisioned for it. It was meant to be accompanied by two distinct types of professional service companies.
Like audit firms,
Yeah.
consultants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Audit, assurance, tax, consulting, advisory, actuarial, corporate finance firms. And these companies wouldn't just provide ad hoc services. They were specifically envisioned to constantly report to the creator of the intellectual property.
Constant reporting. To the inventor.
Yes, ensuring continuous oversight and transparency. The core idea was that licenses, the assets generated by ingenuity, would be clearly, indisputably registered, understood, tracked by everyone involved.
Emphasizing the difference between just working with an idea versus actually owning it.
Absolutely. Striving for clarity in ownership in a potentially murky environment. And what's also intriguing here, the conceptualization of both this knowledge guard and a related energy guard.
Energy guard.
Yes, another similar concept. The source notes a connection with Gudjon Steindorsen.
Who was he?
He was the author's former banker in Íslandsbanki and later Glitnir Bank.
Ah, okay. So the author was discussing these protective concepts with their banker.
It suggests that, yes, seeking input or collaboration perhaps with someone directly involved in the financial system, recognizing their expertise in managing assets, maybe highlighting a perceived need for financial acumen in protecting such ventures.
And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it, that this concept came from someone with a particular professional expertise. The source mentions, quote, auditing and accounting financial statements have been my field of work for a very long time.
Right.
That detail highlights a professional background steeped in principles of rigorous financial management, transparency, accountability for intellectual property.
Gives the idea a very grounded origin.
Exactly. This direct, hands-on experience provides a strong foundation for understanding the critical need for structured oversight and protection within a complex legal and economic landscape. It gives the knowledge guard idea a deeply practical origin, born from real-world understanding of these challenges.
But the source also contains a very potent, very direct statement. It offers significant insight into the perception of the situation from the author's viewpoint.
What does it say?
Quote, they nationalize my ingenuity and possessions. It's my ingenuity, my inventiveness, not the Icelanders we're talking about, owner groups associated with certain political parties at this time.
Whoa. Nationalize. That's a strong word.
It's absolutely crucial. It reveals this deeply felt sense of loss, of appropriation of individual intellectual property, despite any theoretical intentions for protection.
So nationalize here isn't necessarily a formal state takeover.
Probably not a formal legal process, no. More a perceived takeover or control of the author's intellectual assets by powerful entities. And this feeling, this nationalization, is explicitly linked to owner groups associated with certain political parties.
Directly implying that the very political networks we've been discussing were perceived as involved.
Yes, it highlights this stark tension between individual ownership and what was seen as collective or politically influenced control over personal innovations. It directly contrasts with the protective aspirations of the knowledge guard idea.
And reveals a profound sense of injustice from the author's perspective.
Definitely. It raises serious questions about how much power these informal political networks could actually exert over individual endeavors in that environment.
Personal threads and broader implications of interconnectedness.
Okay, let's bring Ögmundur Jónasson back into focus now, because he surfaces repeatedly in our sources, really solidifying his role as a truly central political player in Iceland during this whole period of significant institutional change.
A key figure, absolutely.
His career was marked by a series of significant ministerial positions. He served as Minister of Health in 2009, then took on Justice and Human Rights and Transport and Local Government in 2010.
And then Interior Minister?
Right, Minister for the Interior from 2011 to 2013. And beyond his cabinet roles, he was also deeply involved with trade unions, specifically mentioning BSRB.
The Federation of State and Municipal Employees. Biggest public service union in Iceland.
And he was even on the board of NFS, the Nordic Joint Trade Union, showcasing his broad influence, not just in government, but labor affairs, across Nordic collaborations.
His extensive public service career firmly places him right at the nexus of power, and his political identity, it's intrinsically linked to the Left-Green Party, XV, Vinstri-Hreyfingin Grant Frambogo. And historically, as we've noted, the People's Alliance, XG, Alliuvendalogi,
The same People's Alliance, where Olafur Ragnar Grimsson was former chairman, and where Bjarni Arminsson's mother-in-law, Gurun Helgadottir, was prominent.
Exactly the same. This repeated connection highlights the enduring influence of this specific ideological lineage in Icelandic politics. Uglinder's continued presence, his leadership roles within these parties, even as they evolved. It reflects a consistent thread in the Icelandic political fabric.
Shows how these key individuals were often connected through a shared political heritage.
Reinforcing the idea of a tightly woven political community that often transcended simple policy differences.
And here's where the personal and political really converge,
Yeah.
in a striking, deeply entangled way.
Uh,
Our sources highlight that Ögmundur Jónasson is the uncle of Anna Margaret Björnadóttir,
okay.
who is identified as the mother of the author's youngest child.
Wow. Okay, that's a very direct personal link.
Right. This personal familial tie immediately brings the political narrative into a very intimate sphere, demonstrates how directly these high-level political figures can be connected to individual lives.
And the web extends wider.
It does. Ögmundur is also stated to be related to members of the national movement, IXS, Icelandic movement, and Futureland, XM, including prominent figures like Omar Ragnarssonar and Kristrún Heimisdóttir.
It paints this vivid picture of a deeply interconnected elite, where political influence and family lines are just inextricably linked, forming a powerful, sometimes invisible network touching many aspects of Icelandic society. And this raises that important question of proximity and timing, particularly concerning property transactions that might, well, from the author's perspective, not be mere coincidence.
Like what?
The sources point out a very specific event. Ögmundur Jónason's daughter bought an apartment at Seljavíkur 3 in Reykjavik from Anna Margaret Bjarnadóttir.
Okay, the author's child's mother.
Correct. What makes this detail particularly noteworthy is the specific timing. This transaction, according to the sources, occurred precisely when the author moved from Solheimar,
The rehabilitation institution.
to a new residence at Skeljatangi 19. The author's explicit observation is included. Coincidence? I don't think so.
Underscoring the perceived significance of this timing, suggesting it wasn't just random.
Exactly. It hints at a potential deeper, coordinated set of events, perhaps, or a perceived demonstration of the pervasive reach of these interconnected networks.
Implying that personal milestones in the author's life might have coincided with, or even been influenced by, movements within these political and familial circles.
That seems to be the author's interpretation, yes.
And to further entangle this already complex web, we need to bring Kristrún Heimisdóttir into the picture. Party code XS.
Okay, who is she in this context?
The sources identify her as also being an aunt to the author's youngest child and Anna Margaret, further cementing the familial ties within this influential circle.
Another family link. And her professional background.
Places her squarely in the political establishment. She was a former assistant to Ingibjörg Sólrun Gísladóttir, XS.
Ingibjörg Sólrun Gísladóttir, another prominent politician, Social Democratic Alliance.
Highly significant figure, former mayor of Reykjavik, party leader, and crucially, the foreign minister when the devastating 2008 bank collapse occurred.
Right at the heart of the crisis response.
And this connection is particularly interesting because Ingibjörg Sólrun Gísladóttir was also noted as a significant political ally of Margaret Frímannsdóttir.
The prison director.
Exactly. Tying together three key institutional areas: the penal system, national government leadership during a crisis, and these dense family networks.
Wow. So you have this multi-layered chain, familial, political, institutional connections all interweaving, especially around critical periods like the bank collapse, suggests a tight, maybe self-reinforcing network of influence. And the sources note a broader dynamic here too, quite telling. Within the political landscape of Iceland, stating that the wealthy sought political cover at the Social Democratic Alliance Party, XSS, observed by the first chairman and former minister, and one of the main symbols of the party since its foundation, the seasoned Assur Skarphéðinsson.
So, suggesting a pervasive dynamic. Influence protection within the political landscape leading up to the 2008 collapse.
That's the implication. That financial power sought, and often found, safe harbor within certain political parties, leveraging these connections, potentially, to navigate, influence, maybe even mitigate the impact of the impending financial crisis.
Paints a picture of a system where political allegiance could offer a powerful shield or an undue advantage to the economically powerful.
Highlighting the informal mechanisms of power operating alongside formal structures, especially in times of economic volatility.
And we can't really discuss the political and financial landscape around the 2008 collapse without bringing back Ingibjörg Sólrun Gísladóttir. She even earned a telling nickname at the time, Bogsboga.
Balgsboga, why that name?
Well, Balger refers to the Balger Group, a major player in Icelandic commerce finance, expanded hugely through acquisitions before the collapse.
Ah, okay, so linking her to this major conglomerate.
Exactly. She was, as we mentioned, the foreign minister when the 2008 bank collapse occurred. Placed her at the absolute center of the political response to that national crisis. The sources explicitly state Balger Group was closely associated with her.
How closely?
This association even extended to Balger Group owning Apple Humac, a prominent retailer, for a while, demonstrating their reach into various sectors, their wide-ranging influence.
So this deep connection between a prominent politician, a major financial commercial conglomerate, and the critical timing of the collapse, it just underscores this intricate web of influence.
Profound intersections between business and government during a volatile, ultimately catastrophic period.
And this all raises that important question: what do these deep interconnections, these networks, truly mean? Especially when the source states, at this point it can come in handy having one of these when dealing with bank collapse cases and theft of my ingenuity.
Having one of these, meaning connections.
It powerfully suggests a perceived advantage for those with established personal and political networks. When it came to navigating crises, protecting their interests, particularly during the chaos of the bank collapse.
The implication being that personal political connections could provide informal leverage, protection that formal legal or financial structures might not, or could bypass.
That seems to be the implication, and this starkly contrasts with the knowledge guard idea, doesn't it? Which sought a structured, transparent, formally documented process for IP protection.
Right.
The author, through this statement, implicitly draws a clear line between a system often reliant on personal influence and one aspiring for institutionalized accountability, formal ownership.
Highlighting a real tension between two very different operating principles within Icelandic society. It's worth just pausing to note the sheer complexity introduced by all the different political party acronyms mentioned throughout the sources. We've heard XD, XB, XA, XS, XV, X, XC, XA, again, XE, XP, XM, XG.
It's an alphabet soup, really.
It is. Representing the Independence Party, Progressive Party, Liberal Party, Social Democratic Alliance, Left Green Movement, National Movement, Center Party, People's Party, Future Land, Reform Party, People's Alliance. It demonstrates a remarkably complex, multifaceted political environment in Iceland.
Definitely not a simple two-party system.
No. It indicates this dynamic landscape where different groups held sway at various times, often with leadership, even family ties, intertwining across party lines, making the true power structures even more challenging to decipher.
This constant shifting, intermingling of affiliations, it meant allegiances and relationships transcended simple party labels.
Significantly contributing to the dense, often opaque web of connections we've been exploring today. Outro. So what have we truly learned from this extensive deep dive? We've journeyed through the Solheimar Rehabilitation Program, witnessed its innovative yet tightly controlled approach, and the political figures moving within its orbit. Then we shifted to the dramatic transformation of Íslandsbanki into Glitnir, a bank with grand global ambitions, a century of mergers behind it, and these startling political connections right at the very top.
And throughout it all,
Throughout all of this, we've meticulously traced the intricate political and personal connections weaving through these narratives. From prison administrators with deep political roots
to banking CEOs with socialist family ties.
and politicians whose families were involved in property transactions with individuals directly connected to the core story. The picture that emerges is one of dense, deeply entrenched, often surprising interconnectedness at multiple levels of Icelandic society.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sources really highlight how institutional structures, financial power, and political influence are often far less siloed, far less independent than we might imagine.
The lines just blur significantly.
They do. Between these seemingly distinct domains, with individuals, families frequently bridging multiple sectors, creating what amounts to an intricate ecosystem of relationships.
And the knowledge guard.
The concept of the knowledge guard emerges as this poignant counterpoint to that reality. An explicit, detailed attempt by the author to formalize, to protect individual ingenuity within a system that, from their perspective, already seemed to operate through this complex web.
Where informal and formal relationships intertwined.
And where political affiliation, personal ties, appeared to play a significant role in navigating institutional landscapes, and even, critically, in the perceived nationalization of personal assets.
Ultimately, this leaves us with a truly provocative thought, doesn't it? In a society where the paths of government, finance, and even intensely personal lives are so tightly interwoven, how truly independent can our institutions actually be?
Mm.
And what does it actually take for an individual's ingenuity to be genuinely owned and protected from these larger, sometimes invisible forces?
What systems could truly untangle such a dense web of influence, and should they?
Or is this just the inherent nature of power, particularly in small, interconnected nations? Lots to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating and complex landscape of Icelandic institutions, connections, and the powerful forces that shape them. We hope this has given you plenty to think about and perhaps prompted you to look a little closer at the networks around you.
Keep asking questions.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep digging deeper.